Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, reflections on the first 2 weeks of my Read What You Own challenge and some tips for success. There seem to be more people than ever doing the Read What You Own challenge this year, which is really wonderful. It's great to see. For me, someone who started it as something just for me, to have seen it kind of taken off. And as I say, more so than ever this year. I've done it 2 years before, so I did 100 books in 2021 going into 2022, and then another 100 books in 22 going into 23. So given that there are a lot of newer people doing it this year, I thought I'd do a video where I talk about how it's gone for me so far this year, but also give some tips for things that have worked for me in the past, which have helped me get through the 100 books, because it can be a challenge. It's a big thing to do, to change your habits and your behaviour that much. We are all so used to buying books and almost like buying books on a whim, that I think it's it's a hard habit to break. So I thought I would give some tips of things that have been successful for me. Before I do that though, let's have a quick chat about how it's gone so far. So I'm filming this on Sunday the 19th of November. So the challenge started on the 6th, so it's nearly 2 weeks. And I've actually read 12 books. So I've got my little tick sheet here. I'll leave a link in the description to where you can buy a downloadable copy of this should you want one. So I'm finding it a really useful and fun way of keeping track. So I've read 12 books so far. I'm going to talk about the first 10 that I've read in this. So those first 10 take me up to nearly 2,500 words. So whilst I'm definitely prioritising kind of shorter books, I'm not being cheeky about it. So I've got a book in there that was nearly 500 pages. So I'm trying to read a mix of different things, but also I am trying to get through the challenge quickly. So let's talk very quickly. I won't go into detail about any of them because I've covered them in weekly wrap-ups and things like that. But let me just give you the rundown of the 10 things I've read so far. So first up was The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. Secondly was Relics by Sean Hudson. So you can see it's slim, but it's not like stupidly short. Next up after that was on Kindle Bigfoot Crankstomp by Eric Williams, and then also on Kindle The Haunted Forest Tour by James A. Moore and Jeff Strand, and then Down with School by Jeffrey Willens and Ronald Searle, the first of the Molesworth books. Then read the longest book I've read so far, Alien the Cold Forge by Alex White, which was fantastic. This is the one that's nearly 500 pages. Actually, I'm lying. It's like 430 pages. After that, again on Kindle, read The Mermaid of Sicily by Jinty Lumpkin, and then read this, which I could have counted as 2 books, because this was, I think, originally published as 2 separate volumes in Japan. This is Godzilla and Godzilla Raids Again by Shigeru Kayama, which was fantastic. Then read on Kindle The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, so a classic. And also, so partly read on Kindle, partly listened to as an audiobook, Page Boy by Elliot Page. And that is my first 10. So just for info, so let me do 11 and 12 as well. So 11 was Silver Nitrate by Silvia Marino Garcia. And 12 was Frosty by Stephen Laws. So I've got through a decent number of books so far. And as I say, those first 10, the page count came to 2,500 pages, so about 250 pages on average per book. So not, short, but not cheekily short. And I'm really enjoying it so far. I've enjoyed all of the books I've read. And I'm having a good time doing it, and I certainly haven't struggled in terms of like being out and about and finding myself wanting to buy books. What I have done is I've changed deliberately in advance, changed something, so like unsubscribed from like any book recommendations emails. I used to get like a Mills and Boon newsletter. I used to get the BookBub daily email with cheap ebook recommendations and things like that. So unsubscribed from those, and I've also broken the habit, the terrible habit that I used to have of religiously checking the Kindle Daily Deal every morning on my phone. That was very much kind of part of my breakfast routine when I was making my morning coffee. So yeah, stop doing that to get temptation out of the way. I've not been out shopping really since I started the challenge, like not been into town shopping. But when I do go in, I will, definitely be avoiding charity shops. That's something I've always done in the past, and it's easy for books to sneak up on you when you're out in the wild. So, think about, like, if you're going to a supermarket or something like that, or a drugstore, maybe in the States, try and stay away from the aisle that has the books in it. And similarly, train stations in the UK quite often have nice little second-hand book, shelves where you can buy cheaply second-hand books. So try and walk past those quickly. So those kinds of things, it's that kind of just keeping out of temptation that will definitely help you. But as well as that, I think it's important to focus on what you've got. So to focus on the books that you have, and make sure you continue to be excited by them. So I found it, really interesting thinking about all the books I've got that I haven't read, and I was doing that in preparation for the challenge anyway. But one thing I did last week, you may or may not be able to tell you, is I kind of reorganised the shelves behind me. So I had some piles of books like lying around in here that I needed to try and get shelved. So I've gone through and taken out some books that I've either read or know I'm not going to get to anytime soon, so I could shelve some of the books I had piled up. My TBR cart, which is next to me here, is a lot neater than it was. And I've taken 2 big bags of books out to the garage. So I have like an overflow of books in the garage. I have a load of shelves out in the garage as well. So the act of doing that, of tidying up these shelves and moving stuff to the garage, tidying up my TBR cart, has naturally made me look at all the books I've got. Maybe not all of them, but most of the books I've got. So it's been a useful review. And it's got me really excited. So these books behind me are double stacked. So you've got the kind of slightly larger size of paperback at the front. Behind that is like a row of like mass market paperbacks, like stacked up like that, kind of row upon row. So taking all these books out meant that I could see all these books which tend to get a bit forgotten because they're hidden away behind them. And there's some absolute gems in there that I'm really looking forward to reading. So do think about things like that. Do think about looking at the books you've got regularly. I know a lot of people are doing a kind of rule of 10 kind of thing for the Read What You Write Challenge. So just thinking about the next 10 books that they're going to read in order so it doesn't feel overwhelming. And I think that's a good thing to do. I think if you're doing like the 100 book the 100 book challenge rather than a lesser number, or any number really, when it's a big number it can feel quite daunting. So I think chunking it up into groups of 10 makes sense from that perspective. But also do think about what's beyond that 10 and think about all the other wonderful books you've already got on your shelves that you're going to get to read. Stimulate that excitement in yourself. One of the things I haven't done, but it did occur to me might be an interesting thing to do, is I'm someone who is terrible at impulse control when I watch videos about things. So if I see a video about a book and someone's really excitedly talking about the book, that can make me want to buy it. What I've done in the past for the Read What You Own challenge is to, when that happens, rather than buying the book, which would be my natural instinct, add it to a list. So I make a special list of books that I've heard about while doing the challenge that I want to revisit at the end of the challenge. And at the end of the challenge, I go back to that list and, look at the books that are there. And, probably about 50% of them I find I'm no longer interested in. So once that initial excitement passes, I no longer feel the necessity to rush out and buy them, or indeed to go on Amazon and buy them. But the thing I have also thought about doing this year is watching people's reviews of books I've already got. Because, watching someone else talk passionately about a book you've already got on your shelves is going to make you more excited to read it. So obviously avoid spoilers, but most reviews, I think, on BookTube tend to be spoiler-free anyway, or are definitely, clearly badged as having spoilers. So do think about that. Do think about watching some reviews for books you've already got, so you are even more excited about the books you haven't got to on your shelves yet. But yeah, so far for me, the most difficult thing has not been, the kind of Kindle Daily Deal type emails, because I've unsubscribed from those. I'm religiously steering clear of the book section on Amazon. I haven't been tempted out in the wild by books. I've managed to avoid those. What I am finding though is I've had quite a few publishers and publicists and things like that contact me about books that sound really good. And I'm like, I can't accept them at the moment, which is really difficult. So that's something I need to, and again, I'm kind of keeping a list of those. And where it's a book I'm still excited about, when I get to the end of the challenge, I will probably reach out to the publicist and see if there are still copies of it going, because that has been the most difficult thing for me so far. In particular, there was one book, and I forget the name of it now, but a crime novel, where they were going to send you, they'd obviously put loads of effort into it, and it's like it's like one of those like classic country house crime novels, murder mysteries set around a party or something like that. So they were going to send you like a party invitation with the book and a little bottle of red wine. Obviously I don't drink, so that would have gone to my wife, but they'd obviously put a lot of effort into the publicity for the book, and I quite enjoy it when publishers do that. So yeah, I'm keeping a list of books I've been offered and have refused. And as I say, when I get to the end of the challenge, I'll see if they're still available and may grab a few then. So I hope you found that interesting. As I say, just a few tips from me as someone who's done it a couple of years in the past successfully, which may be useful for people who are doing it for the first time. Do let me know in the comments if you're doing it. Do let me know what your kind of techniques and tactics and things like that are. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.